Welcome, everybody. This is Crystal Garvin. Hope you're doing well tonight. This is our Clearly Essential team webinar, and I'm so glad that you're here with us tonight. We are going to be talking a lot about Strengthsfinder, and I'm going to go ahead and share a screen so you can see some visuals. So a lot of this is what we discussed recently at the leadership retreat in Orlando, Florida. And that was last week. And then the second leadership retreat just took place in Long Beach, California. So people are just getting back from that. And doTERRA is really starting to incorporate Strengthsfinder a lot into what they're teaching and what we're doing as a company and as a business. And it's really exciting to see them adopting this. And we as a team have been doing this for a couple of years with Nicole Weish. I call her our team Strengthsfinder coach. She is a team member as well, an elite team member on our team. And I love that she does both. And we're going to talk about someone else who does that as well. I think it might be a theme that we're starting to see within the company as people realize the benefits of Strengthsfinder and just how much it can help their businesses, their leadership, their teams. I'm really excited about it personally. And I thought we should devote a whole separate webinar to this topic because we learned so much about it at leadership. And we did a leadership recap, but that in itself was an hour and a half long. And I knew we just wouldn't have time to delve into this and give it the time that it deserves unless we did a separate webinar. So just before we get started, let me mention that if you have not taken the Strengthsfinder assessment, you can contact Nicole Weish. The email is down there at the bottom of the screen. She will be able to set you up with the assessment link, and you can take it in about 30, 40 minutes, something around there, and you'll be able to then see your top 5 strengths, and you'll get a book that you can download to read more about each of your strengths. And that's really just the beginning. And if that's all that you've done so far, you're really in for a treat to learn more about this, but I encourage you not to let your learning stop here. You will also want to check out the webinar we did previously about this with Nicole, just because that gives you a good background and foundation. There are other great webinars, training, resources, materials on Gallup's website. So just start taking this as a journey, and this is the next step, but by no means is it the end-all be-all. This is just an overview of some things we happen to learn at Leadership Retreat with doTERRA. So that is what we're going to be kind of unpacking a bit and learning more about together tonight. So first of all, I wanted to give you a little information about the people who were speaking to us that we learned from, and I'm going to actually minimize videos here so everyone can see the full screen. So the people who spoke to us about Strengthsfinder the most at the Leadership Retreat were Jessica Dawson and Jeremy Brookhazen. I think that's right, Brookhazen. And Jessica works at Gallup, and so does Jeremy, but Jeremy also happens to be a wellness advocate along with his wife. He and his wife finished in the top 50 in Diamond Club during the last round, and they also advanced to gold during that time. And he credits using Strengthsfinder in his business and for his team for helping him with the success that they've had in their business. So he does still work for Gallup. He actually recently moved to England to work at their UK office and is still growing his business along with his wife, Melinda. So the two of them worked together to present this information, and they were really delightful. I don't know if any of the videos will go online, but they have very different strengths from each other. Jeremy's aren't listed there, but I know his top one is Woo. And it was really fun to see how they played off each other and how they related to one another in presenting this information to us. So these are the two people whose slides I'm using. I wanted to give them credit. And these are just pictures of slides. These are not the best images, just so you know. But this will give you a little bit of an overview of what we learned and some information. And I've also invited Nicole, who's with us here, that anytime she wants to jump in, she is welcome to do that and chime in with any information she has. She's got vast knowledge about Strengthsfinder, and I really look forward to hearing what she has to say to add to the conversation as we go along. So I'm just going to be giving kind of a recap and an overview, some of what I've learned in my team and my business. And if any of you who are on have already been using Strengthsfinder in your teams, in your businesses, please feel free to jump in and also let me know what you have done so far, whether it's just in your life, in your family, or maybe with your team. Or I know some people on our team have actually used StrengthsFinder in other areas of their life, maybe another job that they have, and have had great success. I'll share some of those stories if no one else is popping on and able to do it. I do actually have someone texting me saying she can't get on, and she was someone that I was hoping was going to be able to share. So let me just type in the link for her so that she can try to get on, because I would love for her to be able to share with us. All right, so that's kind of the agenda. What we're going to do tonight is to get on and talk about the things that we learned, but also have some testimonial time. Okay. One of the things that Jessica and Jeremy brought out was that strengths are very different from stereotypes. And they talked about why strengths are so much better than stereotypes, and how we tend to stereotype a lot in certain situations, or maybe culturally, or even just personalities, and how we need to get away from that, and why strengths are so much more empowering than stereotypes. And stereotypes can be interesting. It can be an interesting way to kind of define people. It can tell where you came from, some of your background. It's descriptive of your past, and that's where stereotypes come up. Not that they're always bad. They might actually be an accurate description, but they're really simplistic. They assume a lot, so they're assumptive, and sometimes people don't really appreciate that. And they also do tell a bit about who you are. But strengths are different. They're really powerful. They can tell you where you're going. They're predictive of the future based on patterns from the answers you gave on the assessment, what your talents are. They're more sophisticated and scientific, so it's based on scientific research, and it's going to tell you who you can become. And that's what's really great about StrengthsFinder to me, and something that I brought out from what Jeremy was sharing, is that it's not really just about what you can or can't do, because really we actually all have all 34 strengths. We just happen to use 5 of them more than others, and there's a whole list. You can unlock the entire list of 34, and you have all 34 talents. Just some are going to rate much higher. Maybe that's your norm, your preference, or just what you will do. They can predict what you will do in the future, and then you can build on that and maximize it, which you've learned some about if you attended the previous webinar trainings that Nicole has done with us. So strengths are better than stereotypes because it helps you to explore who you are and who others are rather than judging. We all have to do the fundamentals, but we do things fundamentally different. And strengths are much more predictive of someone's success than a stereotype will be. One of the most important languages you can learn in this world is the common language of what is right with people. And that is a huge empowering tool that StrengthsFinder gives us, because it helps us to see what's right with us. It helps us to pay attention to ourselves, our habits and patterns, and also to pay attention to others. And we're looking for strengths, not weaknesses. And Jeremy talked about how we tend to be a very weakness-focused and oriented society, but that has not helped us. It's actually affected our GDP, it's affected our productivity, and there are many studies out there proving the effectiveness of using your strengths and focusing on your strengths to increase your productivity. It's really quite liberating. Our differences in this business and in this company make doTERRA better. Different is better. Of course, you've all heard that. It would be so boring if we were all the same, and we tell our children that. But when we stop pretending to be something we're not and stop trying to be someone else, it's so liberating. Even as adults, we have to relearn that. Success does not require perfection. And we have to believe and know that we are enough, and we have enough to grow on, to become the best version of ourselves, and to grow and to do well and be successful in this business, no matter if we look like, act like, or think like someone else. And that can help us move us from being what they say, instead of well-rounded, to becoming well-developed. And that's really what matters the most, because there's not truly such a thing as a well-rounded person. We all have different strengths. And that's good. We can maximize those strengths and become more well-developed. So those are just some of the reasons why focusing on strengths really matters.
Hey, Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was going to mention on that last page, particularly around the being well-rounded. A lot of times, if we just try to be well-rounded, it results in a lot of mediocrity. Whereas when we can focus on our strengths and what we're already good at, we can bring that to a level of excellence. So that's one of the things that really has always stood out to me about StrengthsFinder is why do we want to be mediocre at everything when we can be excellent at so many certain things?
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of the description, jack of all trades, but a master of none. And we can
Yeah,
master our strengths. And we can also then pull out strengths of people around us and our family and our teams and recognize their strengths and help them utilize them rather than trying to master them all ourselves, which is really not possible for anyone, right?
right. The other thing that I was, as on the slide before this about common language, one of the things that I've found when we have this common language around strengths, it seems to lower the defensiveness of people. So if you're having a conversation and maybe it's a little, for you and I, you might not like it, where we feel like we might hurt somebody's feelings, if we can say let's say we like we might not understand, it rather than saying, I don't understand what you're saying, we can say my deliberative needs time to think about this before I move forward. So it feels less defensive. Sorry, that was for what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you can talk about that from that place of, this is my strength and this is why I'm responding this way, and help others relate to you and realize, oh, that's why she's maybe doing things differently than I would.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm getting some feedback. Let me make sure everyone's muted real quick. Okay. Except for you, of course, Nicole. Try not to. I almost muted you.
Well, I am muting myself when I'm not talking. So
oh, okay.
Just in case.
Okay. If you see me manually trying to unmute you, like, wait, I did that on purpose. All right. So strengths are going to drive our performance. And as I said, there's a lot of studies out there that Jeremy referenced quite a bit about how when we focus on strengths, that really does drive our productivity. And Nicole has talked to us about that before too. But when we're doing what we do best every day, we're going to grow more and we're going to perform better and be more productive. And then we talked about leadership and how leadership depends on followership, and we need to stay connected to our own leadership style and also to our team's needs in order to be the most effective leaders that we can be. And in doTERRA, if you're leading one person, you have one team member, even if it's just a customer at this point, and you're just leading them into a healthier lifestyle and how to take control of some aspects of their health, you're a leader. And over time, you'll have sharers and builders that you're leading. And I think this could be just so powerful to implement early on in your business, knowing your strengths and really mastering that, and then starting to learn your team members' strengths, especially your sharers and builders, so that you understand, like Nicole was saying, that common language that you have between each other. And I see myself doing that often with my team members, saying, oh, that's my harmony coming out, or that's my focus coming out. Don't mind me. I did that at the recap, actually, our leadership recap, when I am setting up for a meeting, and especially because I had a previous meeting that was running a little bit late and got me to the meeting to set up later than I would have liked. I was extremely focused on just getting everything set up. And I know I can come off as kind of unfriendly, but I don't have time to stop and talk to people and greet everyone when a meeting's starting in 5 minutes and I have 7 minutes worth of setup left to do. So I just focus and I tune everyone and everything else out. And then I stood up there and introduced myself and said, by the way, if I didn't greet you when you came in, please don't think I'm unfriendly or that I don't want to talk to you. I would love to stay and talk to you more after the meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we started on time. That's important to me. So that was my focus coming into play. And everyone just kind of laughs, especially those who've done StrengthsFinder. They know what that means and they get it, and it sets them at ease and it helps them to see why I'm doing what I'm doing. All right, so they talked about how leaders impact our everyday lives. And they actually, and I challenge you to think about this too. Think of a leader who has impacted your everyday life, someone who has been instrumental in shaping who you are, how you live your life. And write down or just think of 3 descriptive words that you would use to describe that person. So 3 descriptive words that you say really sum up who that person is and how they lead or how they live or why they impacted you so much. So Gallup did this with, I don't know how many people, but a large group. And the 4 most common words that came up were trust, stability, compassion, and hope. And we talked about how we need to lead with hope. We really need to paint a picture of the possibility of a brighter future for those that we're leading. Hope is aspirational. It gives people a reason to commit. They want a mission to believe in, a cause to enroll in. Hope rests on a foundation of trust and stability, and it's derived from proactive versus reactive leadership. We can instill that within our own teams. doTERRA has already done such a fantastic job, and I know Nicole broke down those 4 for us in the past, and we talked about how doTERRA has established a great foundation of trust. It's a very stable company. We know the leaders. They've been very forthcoming in who they are and what they're about and where the company's going. So we have that trust and stability. We see their compassion for the farmers, for the people that they work with. It's very rare that we don't see Emily Wright or Dr. Hill shed a tear when they're talking about the people that they work with and the reason they do what they do. And they've given us great hope. But only 15% of the US has a great deal of hope. And that's a really sad statistic because 70% of those who do have hope are engaged in life, in their work, in whatever it is that they've set their mind and their time to do. Only 5% of those who feel hopeless will engage. And they're 3 times more likely to be looking for a new job. And I thought that was really important to point out because as we're leading others, we can't instill hope too much. You can't think, well, I talked about hope before, or I shared that at that one class, or a long time ago when I first enrolled that builder, we talked about hope. It's something that you need to bring up repeatedly and remind them of the hope that you have and the mission that you're on together. And I think Nicole had some things to weigh in on about this too. Is that right, Nicole? Did I mute you?
No, I muted myself.
Okay.
So I just wanted to share, if you guys are more interested in understanding more about the 4 components of what followers want, the Strengths-Based Leadership book breaks it down. And it also has some fantastic examples of how you as a leader can provide some of these based upon your strengths. So for example, if you have communication in your top 5, it gives you some examples on how you can provide stability based on that strength. So I think that it's a great reference for anybody to use who is working in this business. I mean, you probably aren't going to know your customers' top 5, but as you dig in and you understand some of these strengths a little bit more, you're probably going to start picking up on some things. And so it's a great reference, but it's especially great for mentoring as well, I think. You can use this because it also gives you an idea of how to lead others that are strong in a particular strength. So how to lead someone who's strong in communication. So anybody who's mentoring, who's doing coaching sessions, this book is a really good reference for you. So
I just ordered that book, and I actually was just watching a webinar earlier that Jeremy did with Natalie Goddard, and it was 4 Diamonds. It was really interesting, and you can find it on YouTube. I don't remember right now what it was called, but I know it's on her Natural Solution Revolution YouTube page, and it was really good. But one thing he brought out were these cards, and he showed it's kind of like a flashcard, and I'm trying to remember what it's actually called, but I ended up ordering them after hearing him talk about them, because he talked about how you can use these cards in mentoring, and it gives you a really good overview of each strength and how to talk to people about their strengths. And he used Natalie as an example and was saying he knows that one of Natalie's top strengths is empathy. So he started just reading from the card and saying these are, they're called the Theme Insights cards for coaches.
Yeah, I was just trying to look it up.
Yeah, the Theme Insight cards for coaches. So he started reading from the card and said, Natalie, based on what I know of you and what we've talked about, I believe this is the way that you work, and this is the way that you operate, and I think this is the way we need to move forward with you and your business based on, he was reading these things out loud. And it to her felt like he just had all this insight into her soul, that he just totally got her and understood exactly how she worked and what she needed. But really, he was just reading from the card, some of the highlights. And I just thought those were some neat things to have as resources. So I did order the Strengths-Based Leadership book and the Theme Insight cards for coaches, because I think this is going to be a really valuable tool for all of us who are mentoring team members. And I hope that you'll consider looking into those, and we'll continue talking more about them as well. I'm going to check the chat really quick just to make sure. Strengths-Based Leadership, yes, is the name of the book. Okay, so Nicole's on that question. Great. Some key principles of studying success. We talk a lot about duplication in this business. We talk about duplicating what we do and teaching others how to do what we do, and that's good. But we can duplicate even better by embracing our own strengths and other people's strengths. And they talked about redefining duplication a little bit. So some things that are counter duplication would be when we blame outside factors and make excuses based on only how it was everyone or everything else's fault. And what instead will help us grow is accepting that you were a factor in that as you're looking toward how to be more successful. Cherishing good luck and say, oh, it was just lucky, I was just in the right place at the right time, and kind of deflecting. Instead, we need to cherish who we are and recognize my strengths actually played a role in that. I did that. Recognizing your own talents instead of burying them, understanding your role in your success so that you can duplicate that for yourself and teach others as well. It's actually very self-centered to always deflect and to never give yourself any credit. It's trying to deflect attention off of yourself, but it's a different form of pride. To always be, you're still always thinking of yourself, but not giving yourself any credit. It's harder work to do it that way. And you need to understand your own role in your success so that you can take ownership of it rather than deny it. And you can actually use your strengths to look at an obstacle and say, I can do that. And you can then help others do that as well. And the way that it redefines duplication is we're focusing on outcomes. It's not always about the process. There are certain activities that we all do, and those are defined really well in the PIPES model. We need to prepare, we need to invite, we need to present, we need to enroll, and we need to support. But the exact steps for how to do each of those things may look different for different people because of our strengths and how we operate best. And we need to deconstruct our success, not only our failures. I think it's really common for us to deconstruct our failures. What did I do wrong? Let me pick apart everything I should have done differently. But we don't deconstruct our success. And in a way, that's like saying, oh, I guess I just got lucky that time when I was successful. But instead, we need to look at what we did well and what we did right so that we can duplicate it. And you can duplicate yourself more easily than you can duplicate someone else. So if you can look at what you did well in a class, how you used a strength to teach a class or to move forward in your business or to get a rank promotion, instead of comparing to someone else, you can duplicate yourself instead of trying to duplicate someone else. Because all kinds of people can be successful within doTERRA, and we can't duplicate each other's personalities or even strengths. They say there's only a 1 in 33 million chance that someone else will have all the same top 5 strengths that you do. So it's not about duplicating exactly what someone else does, but it is about focusing on outcomes and how we can duplicate that, because we're all incredibly capable. We can be superstars, but we don't have to force others to copy us, and we don't need to try to copy either. We can instead spend our time figuring out how to be the best version of ourselves. And that's really a beautiful thing when you look at duplication in those terms. Anytime you want to chime in, just let me know, Nicole.
No worries.
So, yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I was thinking about is I was actually doing a coaching session with a leader one time, and the leader was saying, I have one builder who only has a few enrollments, or let's say 100 enrollments. That's not a few, but 100 enrollments. And I've got another person who has 300 enrollments. One has, but their LR or their OV is the same, is equal. And so as we started talking about it and looking at their strengths, one person had woo and one had relator. So the outcome was the same, It
Mm.
was their approach was different. One had high LRP, one had high enrollment. So it's an interesting idea of how we can see what's driving people to help
Mhm.
us figure out how to lead them in another direction or in the direction for more success.
That's fascinating. Yeah, looking at strengths as far as what has worked well for them. And you could see, well, the woo person is an awesome enroller, but we can work together on channeling that strength to help them see, you need to help these people long term. It's like enrolling them all over again, except now you're enrolling them on LRP, or you're enrolling them to use LLV,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
using their strength to put it into terms that they'll get excited, enthusiastic about.
Exactly. Whereas the relator may have been doing a lot of one-on-ones versus classes, but having a
Mhm.
really high enrollment, and their folks seem to be more committed right off the bat for LRP, so they had
Mhm.
that consistency, partly because of the deeper relationship that they may be building. So
Yeah, that's a great point. So this kind of shows you how to help others in this business, knowing their situation and background, knowing their goal, that's the what, knowing the building activities that they're doing, that's the way. So like Nicole said, maybe some are more interested in doing a lot of classes or a lot of one-on-ones, or a combination of both. And then using their strengths is going to help you with the how. As I think that we typically come in as leaders knowing their background, knowing what their goal might be. We identify that pretty early on. We know the building activities it takes to get there. So we're looking at the outcome, but we're not always looking at their strengths to help them. And it can really give us the verbiage and the tools that we need if we're looking at their strengths. We're going to talk more about how doTERRA is helping us with that, which is really exciting. Continually coaching is going to help us with duplicating success, because success does not equal perfect. And I love this. They had all diamonds and above stand up if we ever forgot to follow up with an enrollment, we're ever nervous to teach a class, if there's still days we doubt ourselves, if we're disorganized, if our houses are messy, if our kids fight, if someone in our downline is upset with us right now, and if your upline wants you to build faster. So we saw most of the diamonds standing on most of these points. And it just drove home that idea that it's not about being perfect. It's not that any of us did anything perfectly. And we have to kind of let go of that. And Emily Wright talked about that as well. We're not perfect human beings, nor do we have to pretend to be. But it is necessary for us to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And it was powerful to hear her say these words, kind of closing out the whole retreat, because we know that that's where the company is going. The company is investing a lot with Gallup to help us become the best version of ourselves that we can be. And Emily Wright, one of the founders of doTERRA, she herself became certified as a Strengthsfinder coach, so she could really understand all of what it entails. And she invested her time and energy into that, and then is using Strengthsfinder with her team at the corporate office, and was so excited about how it's helping her understand her team members and how they're understanding and relating to each other better, and how they're such a tight-knit group now that they work together in such a better and more productive and different way from what they did before. So it was really neat to see that. We also talked about a leadership analysis that corporate did with all blue and presidential diamonds who have done StrengthsFinder. They looked to see if there was a dominant strength, and there truly wasn't. Every one of the 34 strengths is a diamond or above strength. And that was neat to see that all of the strengths were represented almost equally across the board. And that even if there were any somewhat more dominant strengths, it was a very small percentage. And 92% of leaders were successful, even though they had all of the other 33 strengths. And they didn't tell us which one was most dominant on purpose, because that wasn't the point, obviously. The point was that all 34 are represented in the blue and presidential diamonds. Emily Wright also shared her top 5 strengths, which I just thought was neat, and I thought I would share. It's kind of neat if you happen to have any in connection with her, and I don't. So I don't have any in common with her, and that's
I was
okay.
excited to see. I have two.
Awesome. Maximizer and arranger, is that your two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that all the strengths are just, they're beautiful. All of them are. It really encouraged us not to compare and say, oh, I wish I had that strength. And that's a human tendency. I think, especially if you have certain strengths, that's going to be a tendency to say, oh, I would love to have more influencing strengths. I'm sure I could be more successful if I had more in that quadrant, or if I had that particular strength. Or of course, Emily has belief, if only I had that, whatever it might be. But instead of doing that, we need to learn as much as we can about each of our individual strengths and how to maximize them. And as Nicole has taught us before, how to operate in the balcony with our strengths and not in the basement. So some tools that doTERRA is giving us that I'm really excited about. You can see the site at the bottom of the page at doTERRA's website. It's in the Empowered You section, and it's Living Your Strengths. So they have each one of the 34 strengths that they've worked with Gallup to analyze how that could benefit someone in a doTERRA business. And I love that. You can scroll through, find your top 5 strengths, and hear a video and learn a bit about how that strength can really help you move forward. And I thought, it's 9:30, so I think we have time here. I thought I might actually play one of those if we had time. It's just a couple minutes long, and this is just one example.
Conviction, clarity, purpose, mission. If you have belief as a top theme, these words likely resonate with you deeply. The belief talent theme means you have certain core values that are unchanging. Out of these values emerges a defined purpose for your life. One of the most important parts of building a doTERRA business is knowing your why, or your personal mission. For you, discovering your why with doTERRA will be critical. It will also feel familiar because your belief talent theme has likely been driving your life toward your mission for as long as you can remember. To help unlock this talent, learn to articulate your why and how it connects to doTERRA's mission. Once you have, you'll be ready to take on challenges with the resilience and courage found in the most successful wellness advocates. Your belief strength will draw others in based on your conviction and sense of purpose. You will have no trouble sharing essential oils with others because you know how powerful they can be. Present the business opportunity with your natural authenticity and confidence that it has the potential to change lives for the better. Be aware that having an unyielding set of principles can sometimes lead to a belief that there's only one right way of doing things. This can be difficult when you encounter people who do things or see things differently than you. Instead of focusing on the right way, transition to an emphasis on the right things and encourage your team to use their own strengths to accomplish those things. As you build your team, use your belief talent to build confidence in the doTERRA products and opportunity. Your unwavering conviction will raise the standard for your whole team and create a powerful team culture. Others view you as someone who is dependable and trustworthy. When you speak from your heart about things you believe in, your authenticity inspires those around you. Use this inspiration to help your team find reasons to do hard things. Your belief talent can help you find incredible success with doTERRA. Belief plus action equals result. When you pair your belief with business building actions, you will unlock incredible results for you and your team.
I just love that. I think it really paints a good picture. It's quick, but it tells you some things that you can use in your strengths to help you move forward, and also some things to watch out for, some potential pitfalls, like with belief, that you may tend to see anyone else who looks at the world differently as being wrong, and you might need to open up your mind and look at different ways of doing things that could also be successful, instead of always, your way is the only way. And just a potential, not that that applies to everyone with a belief strength, but it might for someone who hasn't learned to really put that in the balcony. So I love that example. Just, there's a lot of them. I played the different ones that I have. Belief is not one of my top 5, but I thought it was really neat to see the different ways of looking at how your strengths can help you specifically in your business. This was a graph that they shared from a study that was done at Minnesota College with college students. And it was showing us that we need to have conversations about our strengths. We need to be talking about them. So again, just knowing your top 5 strengths is really the very beginning. And if you never talk about them, if you never have conversations, you won't see the impact in your daily life. So the relationship between the number of discussions and the areas of impact significantly increases with more than 10 discussions. And that you'll see that the first yellow bar is if you know your strengths, but you've had no discussions. Then the blue is 2 to 5 discussions. Red is 6 to 10 discussions. And the top yellow line is more than 10, which I think was kind of an orange, but it didn't translate well in my picture of the slide. And they said it impacted their college experience, their academics and career, and their daily life significantly as they had more conversations about their strengths. But it impacted their relationships the most. And it could be a really critical key in helping develop stronger relationships. And I thought that was a neat correlation there. Your strengths roadmap, we talked about learn it, love it, and live it, and the different ways that we can do this. And I wanted to encourage you to do this yourself as well. And think about this and maybe even go ahead and write it down or write down the question for yourself to do later. Some ways that you could learn it and look back and see how you've used your strengths might be, how have you used your strengths to teach a class? So looking at your top 5 strengths, or maybe just your top 1, if you just want to start with one, think about a class that you've taught and look at how that strength or any one of your 5 strengths came into play, how you used that strength. Really highlight it, and then do that for your team members too if you're mentoring. Ask them, how have you used your strengths lately, whether it was teaching a class or running a business meeting or having a one-on-one. How did you use your strengths? And that's how we can learn from our success and duplicate it. Love it is to tell others, have conversations, study your success, recognize your own talent and the talent of your team members, and talk about it. And then live it. This would be really maximizing our strengths in coaching others, finding our own success, but finding others' success and asking things like, what have you done well? And can you do that again? And get really specific. So you did that really well in teaching that class, or you did this really well in inviting people and getting people to that class. So you can do it again. If they're running into an obstacle where they feel like they can't do it again or they don't know how, you can actually show people you do know how, you've done it before, and this is how. And it's really empowering to deconstruct success that way, to duplicate it. Did you want to add anything on that one, Nicole?
No, I mean, I think you summed it up. I think the last slide is a really good example of why it should be part of the conversation. Like so many personal development things, we read the book, we talk about it for a couple times, and then we move on. But this is a great scientific example of why you can't just move on. It's a building experience. It's not a one shot, okay, it's going to fix everything. You have to really, truly delve in, live it. And, I've been coaching others for a long time now. Well, not a long time, but for a few years now. And I'll admit there are many times when I don't apply it to myself. So this has been it's exciting for me to step back and be like, this now it's time to really start applying these things. So it's not easy though. That's the thing. So I think we all should be prepared to have those conversations. I mean, having a conversation around it is so easy. And so if it just takes conversations, that is really easy. But then living it is really important too. So anyway.
Yeah. And another good exercise you can do to start just applying it and thinking practically about your strengths is think of any recent successes that you've had. It doesn't matter if it's in your business, in your personal life, in another job, in your family, your marriage, whatever, and analyze it. Why were you successful? Or what helped you to move forward? And then think about how did you use your strengths as you look at your 5 strengths and start to understand them more. And then think about a time when you impacted someone else's life in a positive way. Well, why did you impact their life in a positive way? How did you impact them? And again, how are your strengths at play in that? And that can help you moving forward, and it can help your mentor, it can help you as you're mentoring others to look at some other situations where you've been successful, maybe not related to your business at all, but there might be some light bulb moments where you go, oh, so now I see how you can also use that strength to get to the next rank or to reach that goal that you've been trying to get to that's been elusive, or whatever it might be in your business, as well as you start applying strengths to your life and then look at ways that they've already been at play. You can start to apply that to your business and to do that with your team members as well.
The other part about having others, having the conversation with others, there are going to be times where they see you using your strengths that you're not even going to see it. I say sometimes our strengths are like, they're almost on the tip of our nose. We can't see it, but everybody else can. And so if we have others giving us that feedback and saying, hey, you did that great, I bet that was such and such strength. Or even if somebody compliments you, just think about what strength was it that was in play. The more you think about it, the more you're going to want to do it because it felt good. So hearing it from others is really important, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to develop a relationship too with a mentor that you trust, who can say and recognize even when maybe your strength is in the basement and can help you to see, let's get that in the balcony. And that's a little more complex. It's a little bit deeper, but I find myself doing that, analyzing myself that way and sharing it with my mentor just for an accountability, just to say, I know that this is what's happening here and this is where I want to go and I know that I can do it, but just to keep me accountable.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Nicole started this great group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's called Strengths in Oils. It's a closed group, which means you can find it by searching for it and you can ask to join, right? It's not a secret. So you can find it, or you can ask someone, your more immediate leader or me, if we're Facebook friends, I can add you. But I think you can search for it and ask to be added, and then you'll get approved. And she's adding some great references and resources, and we'll be kind of diving into each of the strengths more, I believe. So do you want to talk about what your plans are with the group?
Yeah, so I'm planning on doing a Facebook Live, which is not my most, that just doesn't follow my strengths. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I'll get on there tomorrow and I'm going to explain a little bit more about what my plans are, but you guys we'll get a sneak peek. I'm planning on focusing on different strengths each week. Next week I may try and just do a few getting started sort of things, but then we'll start with achiever and we'll work through all the strengths, and hopefully I like to have a plan, so I'll try and be consistent on the information that everybody's getting, but I'm super excited about it. Hopefully having some challenges for you guys with those particular strengths that we're talking about that day. Yeah, so I'm excited about it. I have a talent, it's not in my top 5, but it's fairly high, called input, and it's a talent that likes to share what I know. And so this is going to be my opportunity to do that regularly and learn while I'm going at it, because there's so much to learn all the time. So it's exciting.
Awesome.
So please join. We have already 100 people in there. I just kind of opened it up last week, so I'm excited. I would love to have even more people starting on the journey right off the bat and learning the information together and being able to have those conversations more effectively.
Yes, I think that'll be really great. I'm excited about that. I did have a request to go back to this slide really quick just to see. I think this is the one she asked, the learn it, love it, live it. So you can see that. And then I'm going to actually stop sharing because I want to see if there's anyone who has any testimonials. I know Amy Schroyer's on the call, and I would love, love, love for her to share how she has used this in her life and seen some success with that. All right, so if you don't mind coming on, Amy, and sharing with us, I'll give you a second to unmute.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Can you see me?
I'm going to spotlight your video. There we go.
All right. Well, awesome job, you guys. I have really enjoyed Strengthsfinder, and I use it all the time. I'm definitely one of those high conversations people. It's something that I'm always talking about. In fact, I just started doing a lot of volunteering with a new church group, and the whole staff has been texting me their strengths finders because they they actually did their Strengthsfinders like a year ago, but they couldn't even remember what they were, and they obviously hadn't really used it much. I've got everybody pulling them out and using them. And before we even meet, like if they need me for something, I'm like, you need to know this, this, and this about how I operate and my need for you to put deadlines. And I want to know how you work and stuff like that. So that's been really fun. But I have been needing to do a lot of administrative things when my administrative strengths are in my like 25 to 34. You know, I think that Crystal and I and Nicole and I complement each other, where my top 5 are maybe in their lower end, and their top 5 are definitely in my lowest. And so I love working with people that are like that, but I've had to be someone that I'm not. My husband was directing a lot of ministry endeavors and a school co-op that we lead that's more than a co-op. It's basically like a school once a week with lots of families and lots of students, and there's a lot of administrative work for that. Well, my gifts and talents are in ideation and strategic and belief, positivity, input, but nothing like I paid the extra to see all 34 of mine. And focus was, I think, number 16 or 25. And then the more administrative ones were in 25 down. So what I've had to do is find a way to build a team around me, because I know that so many of our staff have those incredible gifts. And my husband was really good at drawing out a team approach with people. And so when he passed away and I needed to become the director, it just started out by default. And then I had to learn how to love it. So I was learning how to take ideation and strategic and then work them into an administrative thing for how it ended up working, but it was exhausting for me. And so I had Nicole come and meet with my entire tutor staff. And it was completely eye-opening, because we all did our Strengthsfinder tests, and then we had them printed out on spreadsheets so that when she came and met with us, we all knew what each other's strengths were, and we could see them on the charts. And then as she was talking around the room about balconies and basements, it just gave this huge amount of understanding between us. And it was a big breakthrough with some personalities that we thought were just sort of personality conflicts. But really, it was things like if someone had belief and someone else had belief, positivity, you would think, well, why don't we just believe the same thing? Or why aren't we just, what's the yuck in this situation? Being able to peel apart the dynamics really, really well and understand each other. So what I did, I ended up having each person keep their top 5 in the forefront so that they're just always a part of our conversation. And then when we work together, we do what Crystal was talking about earlier, well, that's my ideation coming out, and I really needed to draw on your achiever today. So it's just become a part of our dialogue, and we work really, really well. We're more like a family, a healthy, positive family that works really well, like the body of Christ kind of family, rather than this disjointed, argumentative type of, I don't know, not everyone has to be the same. And it's really been amazing. So it works. It really, really works. So my next step is I'm having my 14-year-old son do this, because I want him, we homeschool, and I want his education to go in the direction of his strengths, even now as a 14-year-old. And my daughter, I need to talk to you, Nicole, because I want to get a day when I can have 9-year-olds and a collective of children do some kind of a group with you, because I know you said there's something like that out there, and I think it would benefit me as a parent, and it would also benefit my daughter as she grows up to know this about herself. I think it's really important for us to know and appreciate how we're made. The only other thing that I would say is my number 1 is ideation. And so this is one example. Sometimes people would say, oh, you have too many ideas, or you have so many ideas coming at me, I'm not following you, or can you just stop your ideas? Or that's a really bad idea. And what I learned through all of this is that ideation isn't something that I have, it's who I am. And so as you learn these things about yourself and you learn these things about one another, it's very, very important to be encouraging to others, even if you're not that way. Because if you're not a person who has a lot of ideas, but you come up with someone who is ideation, it's very different. If I told someone one time, I said, if it was just something that I had, then I could control this. But if you were in my brain, you would know ideas never stop. They never, ever stop. It's just who I am. And so we have to be really careful not to squelch who someone is. I was with a couple, and the husband is a maximizer. And the wife actually said, as we were talking, you just need to shut off your maximizer. And I looked and I thought, oh, that would be like someone saying to me, you just need to stop having ideas, because it was a part of who this husband is. And so there's a value there. And so if there's anything that you can learn about this, put that value on who you are and how you're made, and put that value on others. And I think it will help build a lot of bridges.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know
You're welcome.
that Amy has used this a lot, like she said, in her homeschool group, in her business, in her life. And she's one who has conversations about things naturally anyway. She's a verbal processor, so it's very natural for her. But if it's not natural for you, I just encourage you to think about how you can be intentional to have conversations around your strengths and around other strengths. I mentioned I purchased the Strengths-Based Leadership book and the theme cards, but I also did order Strengths-Based Parenting because I'm ready to start delving into that. I actually just got the 5 love languages of children recently too. And that's just something that I think as your kids get into like preteen years, their personalities are developed and their strengths are developing, and you can start to see those things and help direct them, like Amy said. So this doesn't just apply to our businesses. It's very helpful in our businesses, but it's something we need to see as useful in all areas of our lives, and think about how it can strengthen relationships all around, which I just love. So thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any thoughts, or have you used StrengthsFinder in your life, even if it's just been yourself taking the assessment and starting to read about it? And if you'd like to share, or if you have any questions, feel free to pop on and ask any questions. In our last few minutes here, we can kind of open it up if anyone wants to unmute and ask any questions or share any testimonials.
Hi, Crystal. It's Amy. Another Amy. I did StrengthsFinder for work. I work in HR, and so that's something that we focus on a lot. And so we'll do like team development around that. And so I've had my top 5 for a while. But what you were saying, and I guess both of you were saying, was how you use your strengths in the way that you build relationships and build teams and even do your business. And I've noticed that once I really started focusing, because I would do like one-to-ones and I was still just trying to get my feet wet and how I wanted to do my business. And as soon as I got into hosting classes, especially classes from classes where other people were being the hosts, and I got to meet people that I didn't know for the first time, my business took like a whole new move. And my top 5 are around learner. So I actually got to study up and theme some of my classes. So I actually got to learn more about themed uses of oils. I also have, did I already forget them? Analytical and context. And I've seen context a lot, where I want to give a lot of background information, and that can be a little bit of even a fault at sometimes, because I'm definitely one of those that probably puts too much information out there at the beginning. But it's so important to me to add context, so even if people have been introduced to oils before, just kind of making sure that they understand doTERRA oils and safety and all of those other things. And I've really noticed that those strengths come out really strong when I do classes. And I just want to keep doing that.
It's interesting hearing you talk. So you're analytical and context together. That's where a lot of the information coming, being put out there. Because for you, it's got to be real, and it's got to be all the information, because you can't just have bits and pieces, otherwise it doesn't all match together. So you can't get the whole story. So it's fun. I love when I'm doing coaching sessions to ask people, just tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you like? What do you do? What do you enjoy? What do you dislike? What's your favorite vacation? And I can almost tell exactly what well, not exactly, but I can almost tell what the majority of their top 5 are, just based on those things. But so hearing you say, getting the information together and knowing what to, having it all there is so important. And that definitely comes from your talents. So cool.
Yeah, it's awesome to recognize that.
Yeah.
I need to focus on that, because I love, give me all the information and I'll just filter out what's relevant to me. And not everybody processes information that way. So I really have to really better understand my audience and pace myself. And so it's something that I need to be aware of, both as a strength, but also as almost like an allergy or.
Yeah, because you could end up having a 4-hour class if you gave all the information, right?
Yeah, I head towards that pretty often.
Yeah, I've been there. I have learner in my top 5 also. That's great. Well, you can see just from that little example how in tune Nicole is with the strengths and how she can help you apply it. So if you're interested in coaching, she does offer that as well. One of the cool exercises I loved at leadership was when Jeremy went down into the audience and he said, okay, just really quick, I need to see a silver right here, first one to get here. And of course it was like the woo people who were just running, no questions asked to get to him. And he would say, and we had on our badges, I have it right over there, I can grab it, but on our badges, we had our top 5 strengths. We had stickers and we put them on our badges, and we could just look at everyone and see their top 5 strengths. It was really cool. Just like you'd look to see what rank are they? Oh, what are your top 5 strengths? So he could see that. And he asked just a few questions based on their strengths and their rank, and was able to, in just like 2 minutes, tell them a plan to move forward to the next rank. Because he'd say, well, at silver, you need such and such to be in place for gold. And for you with those strengths, I'm going to guess this is how you are. And the person would just be like, oh my goodness, amazed. Kind of like reading off of those cards, like he's reading my mind, but he just knows strengths really, really well. And those are the kinds of benefits you can get from having some private coaching, and also some of the trainings that we offered. I would love to do that. We actually, some of us were talking later, because he did it with every rank that was present there, silvers and above. And we just said we could have just watched him do that for a couple of hours, like just cut out some of the other sessions and watched him do that with people. It was just fascinating to see how well he could say, well, this is a plan of action for you based on your strengths. And he just met them. So think of how much more effective you could be with a builder who you've known for weeks or months or years, in helping them based around their strengths to move forward, where you're not trying to tell them to do it like you do, but to tell them how to do it like they do, and move toward that goal even more strongly. So, yeah. Do you want to add something?
The only thing I was going to say is one of the phrases that I heard from folks who were at leadership was, I believe it was Justin said, lead yourself first. I heard that from a couple people, and it really stuck with people. And I do think 100% I agree with that. When you're looking at your strengths and the phase of learn it, love it, live it, the lead yourself first is going to come from the love it phase. That's going to be the next step. A lot of people are going to be like, when I do coaching sessions, a lot of folks will be like, okay, well, how do I use them now? And I'm like, but you don't even know what they look like for you yet. You have to, so you really do have to understand. So Crystal, when you're talking to yourself every day and you're saying, that was my focus, or that was my harmony, or that was this, that's how you learn to love your talents. Mm-hmm. And for better or for worse, balconies, basements, it's being completely aware of them and learning to love them and manage them sometimes, before you can really move to the aim it phase. It never hurts to practice aiming it, but to really truly be successful, you have to 100% love and understand what your talents are. So I think people try to rush through that part. So I like to kind of point that out.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's something we were encouraged to do. So this is my badge. I went and grabbed it. So that's what it looked like. We had just blank spots and we filled them in. And we had the typical badges and things too to add, but the stickers. And then they had, some of you may have seen the pictures on Facebook, huge posters of each of the 34 strengths and written out information about those, and people were taking their picture by their top one. And just, I think, is really helpful to start thinking in terms of that as far as an identity, and knowing that you can grow within that and you can overcome any parts of that where you see it in the basement and you realize, oh, that's not how I really want to live that out. I want to live it out in a different way, and I can learn to maximize that. So I loved that they really focused on that, and I think we're going to see a lot more from corporate as far as training around that. And I'm excited about it. I hope you all are too.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
I would really like to recommend a coaching session with Nicole, because she does a great job helping you really see the positive things in who you are based on these strengths, and how to, because we're so quick to put ourselves down and to automatically see our faults. And she's very good at helping you see how to see the benefit in who you are and make that work in a way that is going to work together and cause you to appreciate how you are put together. And I think that that is a huge blessing. And then when you do pay for taking the test and everything, the Gallup website has all kinds of lists in there. And one of the lists that I use is, I don't know what it's called, Nicole, you probably do, but it's something about action steps. And so each one of the strengths has these actions listed with these little checked boxes. And it really gets very, very practical on giving you ideas on how to use how your gifts are. But there's several in each one of those categories, and they call them theme prints. And just like we all have a thumbprint, we all have a theme print. And I really like that too.
That's interesting. I don't know that I've ever found that. Where did you find that?
I have no idea. I was browsing around the other day, but what I did, I printed out all 34. Since maybe it's because I paid for them more. I don't know. But I printed out all 34 of mine. And then I took it to a meeting with 2 other people so that they could see theirs too. And we could cross compare on how we would work together better. It was really cool.
Very cool.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you. If you there's also, when you do the assessment, there's several reports that you get. Mm-hmm. So there's your general report. I don't even know what that's called because I don't even look at it. There's your Strengths Insight report, and that is a personalized report based on all 34 of yours. So, it takes into account what your 6 through 10 are and what your bottom ones are. It takes into account with that. So, the Strengths Insight report is the one that I recommend. And then there's also a Strengths Insight report and action planning. So that one also provides the action planning. So that might be where they are, but not in a full format like you have. Mm-hmm. So
someone just said it's called Ideas for Action, and she didn't pay the extra, and she could see hers. So
thanks.
That's great.
Yeah, and I can see the Strengths Insight and Action Planning Guide just by Googling it. So everyone can get to that.
And the Ideas for Action, they'll give you for your top 5. I just happened to get the Ideas for Action for all 34 because I needed to see, like I said, with my husband gone, I needed to see how in the world I was going to draw, and I needed to draw very deeply from my 6 to 12 and try to bump some of those up a little bit in order to get my life together. So it was worth the money.
I actually just did that today. So I paid for the rest of mine today. And it was because I watched that webinar where he said, if you're a diamond leader for sure, if you haven't already, you need to know this about yourself. And
it's important.
It's helpful. So, and it was really funny. It made me laugh. I knew responsibility had to be really high. Every time I see it, I think I really relate to that. I can't believe it's not in my top 5. And it was number 7. So, just things like that. And then looking at my bottom ones like woo and ideation, I was like, not a surprise at all.
I'll have the woo and the ideation for you.
Okay, perfect. See, complement each other. There was something else I was going to add. Oh, the other thing that's cool in the Strengthsfinder site is once you've done your strengths, you can share it with others in Gallup's site. And it sounded like they're going to be developing something right in our doTERRA back office, where if someone's taken the Strengthsfinder test, we'll be able to see that in our downline, which will be really neat. But I don't know when that's coming. But in the meantime, you can just use Gallup's site to do that. So I just typed my email address into the chat box, the one that I used for Strengthsfinder. It's DAC Garvin, so it's like David and Crystal, dacgarvin@gmail.com. And I've had several people do this already. And it's helpful for me because I've had people send me screenshots or email it to me, and it gets shuffled and lost. And it's neat because I can just log in and I can see, oh, those are Jenny Brown's top 5 strengths because she shared it with me after she took the assessment. So feel free to do that, and you can use that with your own teams too. Encourage them, once you've done this, share it with me, and then you can just log in and see it whenever you need to access it, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, there's also a app that you can have on your phone. So when you start getting a lot of folks, you can have it on your app, and you can share from the app as well, which is nice and easy too. So
I've heard that. I didn't get the app yet, but I saw that people are able to do it just through the website too. So that's been helpful. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Nicole, and thanks, Amy, for chiming in, and other Amy as well. And thanks for everyone listening and being with us. I hope this is helpful for you. I know it was for me, and I'm excited about it. I feel like for me personally, this is the personal development program that I just want to commit to. And there'll be other things I do from time to time. There's other things I've participated in, but it's kind of like our empowered success system. I've tried a lot of systems, and they bounce around from one to another, and they all have different great strengths in them, but I want to just have one that we all use. We all have that common language. And with Empowered Success, I feel like we have these great tools from doTERRA. Let's just use those. As I've talked about since leadership too, they're just getting better and better. And I feel the same way about Strengthsfinder. I've done some different programs. I mean, I love John Maxwell and Dave Ramsey and Michael Hyatt, and I've done some of his deep dive and different coaching programs. But it's not something I can really relate to someone else and duplicate down easily. And I feel like this is going to give us that common language. And this is the one I want to commit to. And you look on their website, there's tons of books on how to apply this to your life in different areas, depending on your job and even your faith and your parenting, and so many different ways that you can use this and apply it, and really delving in and understanding it and talking about it in our daily lives and applying it to our businesses is what I want to do and what I hope to see a lot of our team members doing. And this can really unify us in some cool ways too. I've already seen it happening. So I'm really excited about that. Thanks, Nicole, for introducing it to us originally.
Well, thank you for letting me be like, hey, have you ever heard about Strengthsfinder?
Yeah, and I get approached with a lot of things, and that there's that, what is that? When would that be? I don't even know what strength that would be, where I'm just kind of cautious, like I'm not going to jump in. It's probably learner, where I need to know more about it before I'm going to commit to anything. So let me do my own research. And then I started reading about it. I was like, oh, I think I actually want to say yes to this one. I'm really glad that we did. I feel like it's given us a 2-year head start on some of the things we're learning about from corporate, which is awesome to see. And if you are just getting started now, you're getting started at a great time, because corporate's offering so much to complement it for our businesses. So.
I'll tell you one book that I just recently started diving into. Well, there's 2. Strengths-based selling. So I think that one's very interesting. And then I think you guys probably heard about it at leadership, but anchoring your strengths. It's actually how to apply oils along with your strengths. It's kind of an interesting concept. I don't, it's not really the personal development part of it, but it's an interesting concept. So
that's kind of neat. I'm sure Jeremy and his wife had something to do with that. I haven't seen
that. She wrote it. She wrote
it.
His wife did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And thank you all for being with us. And I will hope to talk with you soon. Send me your strengths if you get a chance through the app. I'm going to actually download the app now. I think I'm at a point where I need the app. And I will look forward to seeing what your strengths are, and seeing some of you next weekend at our retreat in the Boone area, where we're going to talk more about this in person as far as application too. So see you soon.
Bye.